Welcome again. My name is GhostKing again, and the next game we're going to be doing for you is East Memories of Celceta, which I've probably said at least 3 times by now. So the last time this game has been run on the RPG Limit Break channel, it was almost a 3-hour run. I ran this at Limit Break 2017, and my time there was about a 3 hours flat time. As you can see by the estimate now, and that run was on easy, by the way, the PC version added a lot to make this game more interesting and broken as a speedrun.
Yeah, if you'll notice, that estimate is significantly under 3 hours.
Yeah.
I guess the only way to really explain it is to get right into it, so why don't we go ahead and do so?
Alrighty, I'll give the countdown. 3, 2, 1, and go. So the first big quality of life change added to the PC version is this super fast turbo cutscene. Speed up. And I forget that I have to, I forget that I lose a little bit of time the first time I boot this game up. In fact, I'm gonna give this another go because sometimes it messes with things. So it's sometimes faster to just load up, like start up a file and then start over, like while doing attempts. Okay. Let's get the green live split as well. I like that color better. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. So, cutscenes happen about 5 times as fast in this version, as long as you're holding down the right trigger. This is a port of a Vita game, by the way, as well. So the whole story here is Adol lost all of his memories when he entered the region of Celceta, and kind of needs to get them back. That's why the character here we see is not Dogi, it's Dogi replacement Durin, who is not nearly as cool as Dogi the Wall Crusher. Like with E7, move my mouse there. Yeah, thank you. So, like with E7, this game has a 3D design. You can dodge roll really dramatically. It's the fastest form of movement for about the first 43 minutes of the run. And this game also has a party system, because this gentleman here, Durin, is going to join our party. So first we're going to equip the short sword, and I'm going to not de-equip my armor, because that's actually not a good idea in this category. And those statues that I just touched, I can warp between light-colored monuments after I do this dungeon. So the basics of combat are, I have a basic attack button, a dodge button, a guard button, and a character swap button.
In addition, he also has a trigger he can hold down that turns all of the face buttons into an active skill selection.
Yeah, that's what the Rising Slash that I just gave Adol does. I have to give him a skill, otherwise the game won't let me proceed. This is the newest version. Alright,
this is playing on current patch.
So, that enemy mob is a little annoying. If the big mole burrows underground, it's a bit of a waste of time. You're going to see me actually playing as Durin for a lot of this run, and the reason for that is he has the fastest dodge roll in the game. He's terrible for combat, but he's useful for that. So we picked up a memory just before entering this cave here, and by loading up the menu to view the cutscene viewer, the process of doing that sets my characters back to a default position, which normally happens whenever you save or really do anything in the menu that exits out of the game briefly. And the default position of your ally in that instance is actually right behind the gate there, so I can skip going through that gate. Okay, this sucks. So Delphi, you want to explain flash dodges and flash guards?
Yeah, so system introduced in E7 was you can perfectly time guards to nullify damage and also give yourself a critical buff for the next amount of time. Celceta also introduced flash moving, which allows you to slow down time and run around really fast. you can also get both of these to happen at the same time to stack their effects and get some pretty crazy dividends. Against bosses, you'll see that you can also stun them using that blue meter under their health bar, and it's dead.
Pretty much. Yeah, so you also have the extra skill. You'll notice that a lot of these mechanics are very much the same as in Ys 8. Ys 8 added a little bit more to it, but this was kind of the pioneer. And this was also a Vita game, so the fact that it was a handheld game was really... kind of shows really the power of the Vita at the time. This was like early Vita.
Yeah, this game released in 2013, for those unaware.
Yeah, it took them 5 years to port it, but I am so happy they did, because it's done a lot for this game to port it. This is on a really obscure platform, even though the Vita does have really high game retention. Like Vita has an absurd attachment rate. Like, there's not many games, but almost every game on that console, like, a lot of Vita owners own. That's why Trails of Cold Steel actually did really well on the Vita, even more so than on the PS3. Flashcards are not particularly hard to move as long, or pull off, as you might think. But you do have to kind of know what you're doing to really do them well. Alright.
They have a pretty generous window, and in only Celceta, if you hold down the button, you get a regular guard, which you block some of the damage. On anything higher than easy, it's a little bit less useful.
On easy, you just take no damage while guarding. But anyways, so the story here is we saved the miners in Kazan Mine, and the governor thanks us, but she offers us a big quest, which is to explore the region of Celceta, because the town of Kasten is kind of on the outskirts of the country, and really not much of this region has been explored. Adel actually explored most of it before the events of this game, but she wants us to map it, basically, and so that's kind of where our adventure starts. Yeah, this game runs at 60 frames per second. I actually have it set to 120 frames per second, but I think I also have VSync enabled right now, so it's locked at 60 anyways. Alrighty, so here we get another memory of the Thunder Tower, Providence Tower, that we'll go to much later. Right here, minor optimization if I hang around the lip of the river there. But anyways, there's two places that Durin says to go. One is the giant river at the west end of our map. That we know of the river and we know of the giant tree in the center. The giant tree is the other place we can go. We can actually go to either scenario first. We are going to go to the giant tree scenario first. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time there because this game is really broken.
Yeah, we can thank the second version of the Steam release for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The game launched with a couple of minor bugs with regards to flash guarding, and so to fix them, they kind of just nuked the whole thing and just said, alright, you can chain together as many flash guards as you want, and that's going to be really busted. It doesn't actually benefit you in casual play, but in the speedrun it is huge. Alrighty, so here we're gonna, first I'm gonna save because I don't want to screw this up. So, huge shoutouts to Ravi who found out, like, I found this glitch by accident, and then Ravi found some, implementations of this. I'm gonna have Adol die because he has lower armor. Or lower HP. So he's gonna die, and I'm gonna go over here, and then I'm gonna swap Adol to active position while he's dead, revive him, and he's going to clip through the floor because he died underwater, and when you're underwater you're set to a lower position on the Z coordinate, which means that you can clip through floors in this game. And we're going to head over to the other side of this bridge and kind of swim out of bounds, and things underneath anything but water, you just fall until you hit a kill plane. But if there's water, you will just rise up to the surface. It's kind of a nice little quirk about how they designed this game. So we get over to this bridge, and this allows us to enter this area from the backside. This is supposed to be a shortcut to proceed after we clear this area, but we're also going to just Okay, I need to lure these guys away. Get the emerald here because that's worth a lot of money, and I'll sell that later. So, we just basically did a massive shortcut to get to this area. Furthermore, in skipping to this area of Komodo early, we skip all cutscenes that are programmed to happen as soon as we enter this town, which saves multiple minutes. A byproduct of this is we have broken the sequence of events, and in doing so, for some reason NPCs, if you try and talk to them, nothing happens. However, memories are really convenient, because memories, the red and blue orbs you see, if you initiate one, it sets the game to a proper story state, which means that we can kind of screw with this game's sequence, because if you break the sequence, everything that's supposed to happen after the part that you skipped doesn't load properly. This is except for memories, which will conveniently reset the state to normal. And yeah, so now I can actually proceed instead of getting soft-locked. In any case, so when we get to this town, Adult gets arrested because strange things have happened in the village ever since he left, and they want to find out, you know, does he have any part to do with this? Turns out he doesn't, and he remembers the first time he came here, where he met the village chief and his two kids, his daughter Karna and his son Remnos. And villagers have been basically going missing, including Remnos. So it turns out the villagers are being possessed by these dark masks, so they nearly kill the village chief, and so Karna, the daughter of the village chief, decides to join us, and we're going to head out to the center of the crater to kind of figure out where these strange masked, you know, villagers have been going.
Or at least that's what the story wants us to do.
Pretty much. You can just assume that every part of what I say is at least what's what the game wants us to do, unless it's very clearly not. So the nice thing about Karna is she enters the party at level 11, which is really convenient because my other characters are level 3, and she does all the damage right now. East memories of Roland. Roland. It's pretty dramatic. It's not quite the same role as in like East 8 or as in East 7. But we're gonna get something really ridiculous. And by that I mean so ridiculous, it is the single thing that actually got me speedrunning. Like, no joke, when I first played this game back in 2015, well, actually, it wasn't the first game I ever speedran. I speedran, like, a couple things, like, in high school, like, 10 years ago. But the first game that ever made me really want to consider speedrunning was this one, because we get a really cool movement option later, and I'll not spoil that. So as soon as we enter this room, we get into a sort of pseudo-boss fight. I'm going to set Karna's X skill to homing knives, and then immediately use her finisher, which is a tornado attack. And I want all 4 of these guys to be caught in the tornado if I can help it. I only got 3 of them, but that's fine. And she's taking a lot of damage. So I may have to kite around.
Fortunately, Karna's weapon has poison built in, so it helps quite a bit for dealing with these guys, as if you have to kite around, having the persistent damage over time. Okay.
I really don't want to use my one healing item right now. And Karna's about 2 hits away from death. So notably, Adol and Duran do very little damage. When your AI, when party members are controlled by AI, they only do about 40% damage. And they're also super underleveled. Why normal difficulty instead of easy? I'll touch on that in just a moment. Suffice it to say, it makes the run a lot more challenging, and changes the route a little bit. Okay, so nobody died. That was a very slow fight, because I didn't hit all 4 of them with my finishing skill at the start, which would have done about half their health. It's also just slow to navigate. Anyways.
Leave it to me.
Alright, so this is Ancient Burrow. Also has a really cool dungeon theme called Harlequin's Temptation. This song is cool in every Ys game that it's been in, which is 3 of them, because this is a remake of Ys 4, which actually had 2 versions. But this one's considered canon, because the other 2 were outsourced. Yeah, they changed the route up and the difficulty up considerably enough that I like to run on normal for this game. But yeah, so there's overworld actions in this game. Picking up a chest for money here. And Karna's is that she can sever suspended cables, which are required to create paths to move on in this dungeon. And I really want her in my party because there's a thing later that I would be soft-locked without her if I was to try and skip. So I didn't touch on this, but there's a couple of other really cool features that the PC version added. The first of which is that I can swap in between characters. It used to be you only had one button to swap characters, so you had to kind of rotate through them. Here you can swap, here you can push forward in the cycle or back in the cycle, so it saves just a little bit of time. The second of which is they added a skill called Simul Flash, which is you can simultaneously get a flash guard and then a flash dodge. Which means that you can get the mini crits from the flash guard and the SP, while also getting the bullet time that you get from perfect dodging an attack. So if you haven't seen a perfect dodge, basically it slows down time and I get a bunch of extra hits in. Alrighty, so welcome to one of the PC exclusive glitches. So certain attacks actually give you vertical height in this game, which is interesting because this game doesn't actually have a jump button. So instead of actually fighting this guy, I want him to do a spinning attack. I'm not in good position here, so let's try and get him to zoom back. And he's not giving me the attack that I need him to do.
He's giving you basically everything but at this point.
You just can't jump in this game because they didn't program a jump button.
Not to mention, many of the obstacles in this game would be very easily circumvented by the existence of a jump.
But as you can see, when he does this attack... wow, how am I not getting enough height off of that? Each time I get a successful flash guard, it stores the height gain that the attack gives me, and if I get it like 8 times, something special happens. But I'm not getting the height that I need to right now, which is actually terrible. I've only got 6 there. I need at least 8. This is not unusual.
Yeah. This B is a jerk, and we're going to be seeing him many more times.
And he moved to the side. Please? Melderby?
I mean, going by the RPG limit break definition of what a bird is, this classifies as a bird, and thus is a jerk.
Okay. This is like about the worst I've ever seen him. And, okay, I worried okay, should be getting the guard here. The problem is, if I'm against a wall, it doesn't work. There we go. So you actually get enough height off of this that you can exit the boss arena. And we don't need to fight him. Now, it would have been faster actually to fight him, but Also, because we escaped a boss fight, as soon as we enter a room that has a boss fight or an otherwise forced encounter, as soon as we enter the room, the boss fight starts immediately, and we fully heal, because you fully heal as soon as you start a boss fight in this game. Do the spinny thing, please. Yeah, it usually takes 8 or 9, but somehow I was able to get it with 7 there. But yeah, so PC version, they added that you can just chain together as many flash guards as you need to do certain things.
Well, even though that particular skip was longer than if he had just fought the boss, it still saves more time in the long run to do the skip.
Oh, what? He hit me in midair. He hit me in midair somehow.
Yo, what?
And now every one of my characters is hit with heavy, so this is about the worst that could happen. I'm not particularly practiced on this skip right now, but yeah. So if I'm hit with heavy, I just don't get the height because I fall immediately. Okay, somebody who's not paralyzed. And I didn't get enough guards. Okay. This is fine.
Yeah, this is probably one of the hardest tricks in this game.
It is the hardest trick in the game because the boss doesn't cooperate half the time.
Yeah. Because you have the boss RNG working against you, you have the difficulty of actually getting the right number of flash guards, as well as just...
And if you miss the loading zone that you want to hit... Okay, that's about the worst I've done on that, but that's fine. So, if you miss the loading zone, you can actually hit the kill plane, because you basically sailed out of bounds. Okay, well, so we've just escaped the boss, and now we don't ever have to deal with that guy again. I wish. But we've skipped the rest of that scenario, and there's going to be another sequence break that I'm just about to do, which I'll explain shortly. Yeah. I don't know why cursor keeps showing up on screen. Alrighty. So, we're done with the tree. You might say, well, there should be multiple bosses in that tree. Like, you're supposed to do some grand story thing. Well, it turns out you don't need to. So I'm gonna save here. So the nice thing about the dwarf bracelet that I picked up is, not only does it do something really useful in the story, like it's required to beat the game, but for instances like this where I need to deliberately die, it lowers my defense considerably. So we're gonna de-equip the dwarf bracelet, move over here, and put Durin in party lead, and then once again we're gonna revive him, and this is gonna put him under the floor. Alrighty. So I'll explain what I'm doing here in a moment, but I'm sailing out of bounds here because there's one area out of bounds that is actually loaded. Well, we got it first try. Nice.
Nice.
So this whole section they put into the game, but you're not supposed to actually get here. And what this allows me to do is hit this loading zone from the back end. And if you hit the loading zone from the back end, you can actually bypass a trigger that prevents you from proceeding. So, until you defeat the boss of Ancient Burrow and view all the cutscenes that happen there, you can't actually proceed in the game. Because the game will have a wall, like basically a trigger that says, you can't proceed because you have not finished the dungeon. This is only on the front end of that loading zone, though. So if you hit it from if you access the loading zone from behind, then it basically allows me to skip ahead well quicker than I'm supposed to. So yeah, now we're gonna head off to the second scenario, which is the Cell Ray scenario. We're basically completely done with the giant tree. I wish I could say we do have to go back there for one thing.
Yep. Which, unfortunately, we already alluded to.
So, once again, Adol finds himself arrested because last time he was here, as soon as he left, strange things started happening. But when he was last here, he met up with the village chief, this dark dark-skinned, blonde-haired gentleman by the name of Ozma, who is basically the guardian of these dinosaur ostrich hybrid things called Spartas, which, by the way, the babies are adorable. And so last time Adol was here, he made friends with the guy, so now that we've remembered what happened last time we were here, we're going to ask to arrange a meeting with him. So he trusts that we're of kind enough heart and explains kind of what's going on. Essentially, the river on the side of the town here is being poisoned. Some strange streaks of purple are being seen, and fish are dying. So he doesn't think Adol's the one who did it, but he asks us to help him find out who did it. Legally distinct Chocobo, sounds about right. But they swim, and they're also much cooler. Anyways, so we need to talk to a bunch of NPCs and figure out what's going on in town. Talking to that select group of NPCs is what you need to do. So Ozma tells us that the actual people responsible, or the actual ones responsible for poisoning the river are the Spartas. It's kind of a dark secret that only the village leader knows. But he does also know that they don't normally do that unless they're defending their nest. So somebody's disturbing their nest at their at the Sacred Beast's lair, which is where they normally reside. So he asks us to go there, and of course, you know, being the speedrunners we are, we're going to say, we don't care about your problems. We're going to proceed with the story and just skip another, 30 minutes of gameplay and cutscenes. So I'm going to perform that same skip where I clip through the floor, only this time I don't actually need to kill a party member to do it. I just need to get into water, swap out my active party member for a benched party member, and then swap them back in, which again lowers, in this case, Durin's Z-coordinate to being below the floor, and so we can just swim out of bounds. And then we're going to fall and come back in bounds underneath the loading zone to the next dungeon.
Just barely not drowning.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't actually drown, your health just kind of depletes slowly.
Oh, right.
Oh no, that actually is in the Vita version. This isn't port stuff. This is stuff that you can do in the Vita version. Everything involving this glitch is in the Vita version. So now, I would ordinarily be... Sorry to interrupt you, Delphi. So I would ordinarily be soft-locked because I don't have the Hydra Scales, which I get in the Sacred Beast's lair, and those let me dive underwater. But since I can clip out of bounds pretty easily, it's kind of not a problem. So we're going to go here, position ourselves via the mini-map to end up just underneath this staircase. I don't want to hit the kill plane, and I don't want to end up in an area that would leave me soft-locked. But it's pretty safe. Anyways, so I'm going to put Karna back in the party because I would be soft-locked without her right now. Because I need her to do that. And there we can proceed. So we're going to start using the Dwarf Bracelet as well. Which shrinks us down to small size. And I'm going to shut up because this music is really cool. You cannot proceed. Because you don't ever have to actually get her to get into this dungeon thanks to that glitch, but you need her to actually get through this dungeon. So, equip the Dwarf Bracelet, and here we're going to go to about here. Load up a memory to restore characters to default position. Go into the Dwarf Bracelet menu, and I did not position myself correctly. He's just an anime boy in this game. And then when they hit normal size, Adol is in a position that he can actually hit this loading zone while returning to normal size. And the enemies in this particular area have really low health because you're not supposed to do damage because Dwarf Bracelet lowers your damage. They also give a lot of experience. Yes, he is. At about level 12, Karna can randomly learn this skill called Napalm Shot, which is sort of her most useful skill. And we're going to repeatedly grind against these enemies here until Adol gets to level 13, because he needs some EXP, because my characters are considerably lower level. Yeah, this game looks very anime.
Especially compared to the older titles, even.
I want to say it's the same artist as, Tokyo Xanadu and Trails Cold Steel. They've changed artists a few times. Alrighty, so... Well, that's unfortunate. Darn it, that all warped. So I kind of want to pull these enemies away, and this one's not cooperating. And Durin can unlock this chest. This is the one time we ever actually make use of his ability to unlock chests. And since he's hit with heavy, I'm going to switch him out to Ozma, who's going to be basically a little bonus in damage for the next boss. Darn, I'm hit with heavy, so I'm moving slowly. Head on over here, because I need a little bit more money. This is stuff in the normal difficulty route. Alrighty, so the next boss is a little dumb. First of all, I need to equip, remove this from him, give Adol the best stuff, and then, yeah, that should be good. Alrighty, so this boss fight loads immediately because we never actually have, like, finished the B boss. And this is probably the most tedious and difficult boss in the run. I wouldn't quite call him the most difficult, but he has a combination of difficult and tedious. So as you can see, I need to kill the legs before I can attack the main body. And the reason I picked up a sword for Adol is because he can do a lot more damage to the body here with this weapon. And so this makes good use of the Flash Guard flash move, Simul-Flash. The problem with Simul-Flash is I can randomly take damage that I wasn't intending to, like even if I get the dodges perfectly. But the nice trade-off is it extends the duration that he is on the ground here. And I'm gonna heal Adol because I don't want him to die right now. Alrighty, so I did about half of his health bar by prolonging the amount of time that he was down by getting a lot of flash dodges. Side note, this guy does a lot of damage. Alrighty.
Yeah, in case it wasn't obvious, Ghost is doing this fight very underleveled compared to where you would normally be.
Alright, I'm gonna initiate his final phase here early because Adol's really low HP, and if he dies, it's kind of really bad. Okay, so now he's going into his final phase where he's not going to come back down very much, and Karna is kind of the main damage dealer from the rest because she can actually hit him on the while he's standing up, albeit it's really janky and awkward. And she died. All right, so we're gonna have to do this the slow way, unfortunately. Oh, well, I'm dead, so I'm gonna have to restart this fight. Whoopsies. Kill me, please? Dang. That's unfortunate. Yeah, so I took about as much damage as I possibly could from this guy. Unavoidable with the route. Sometimes you just take damage even when you do things perfectly. It's also that I'm really underleveled, as Delphi mentioned.
I don't quite remember. Was spelunking in the route at Limit Break?
Yes.
Okay.
That is what we call sometimes the clip through the floor.
Yeah, so if you watched the RPG Limit Break run, I believe in 2017, this fight did not include Ozma, so you didn't even have a damage bonus back then. But because you actually completed a dungeon at all, you had significantly more levels on Adol and on Karna.
It also had a better weapon on Karna because you could swim.
Mm-hmm.
And she also comes back late. Like, she leaves your party and then comes back later with a much better weapon, like, by default. It's kind of unfortunate when allies learn skills sometimes because it ruins your guard timing.
Yeah, just, Adol, could you please not learn those right now? Thanks.
Oh wow, we took the damage there. This is really, really unfortunate right now. Already. Oh dang, I didn't even initiate the final phase off of that. Oh, I gotta do one more cycle. Admittedly, I probably could have stood to practice this a little bit more. It intercepted him in midair. Nice. Okay, there we go. This game is actually pretty easy because you can spam healing items. I just didn't bother to pick any up.
It is one problem that the party style East games tends to have.
It's more a problem with this one in particular, because in 5 they limited your, or 7 they limited your healing items to 5. Alrighty, I hope this works. This usually doesn't, but... because the tornado likes to do things, but actually hit him for once, and stuck with him.
Yeah, the tornado has a mind of its own, and it's not too bright.
Okay.
Robo Centaur being a jerk right now, though.
Robo Centaur. I approve of this name.
I don't know his real name, so that's what I've just been calling him.
Yeah, the problem is that this fight's really long, and if you lose somebody, it takes a while to recover. There we go.
Nice.
Alright, so we're going to switch to Ozma because we're going to take him out of the party right now.
Rest in peace, best character. At least he actually exists in this route.
Hey, he's useful in the old route. It's just, we kind of forget he exists on that one. He got brought back into the route though, so...
Yeah.
Alrighty, so once again, since we skipped into that dungeon and didn't do any of the scenarios beforehand, all the cutscenes that are set to load here don't, because we're doing things out of sequence.
This is, like, this part right here is where Spelunking saved the most time back in the Vita/PSTV route. Just, there is a lot of cutscene and a lot of mandatory plot triggers that you just don't have to deal with.
Yeah, because the next town that we're going to go to is a town called Highland Town, and there's a whole scene where they're surprised to see Adol, because he's been here before, and he forgot about it because he lost all his memories. And they all thought he was dead, so they buried some of his stuff. but we go and find out that his stuff is missing from his grave, so that's a little awkward. Okay, I'm going to remove equipment from these two because I don't need it anymore, and I'm going to sell as many things that I have that are worth a good amount of money. Actually, didn't need that extra 1,000, but it never hurts to be safe. And I actually pressed the circle button, so I need to equip her stuff. So those knives are exclusive to this route because there's a boss coming up that's really hard that I need her to do a good amount of damage in. Thankfully, that fight's not going to take nearly as long as the last one did. Alrighty, so the whole story here is we're forbidden from approaching the Thunder Tower, which we saw in an earlier memory. This is a place called Providence Tower on the top of this hill where it's always thunderstorms, and this is a town where the god of this region, El Dio, lives. But we're forbidden from going here, but because we entered Highland Town before doing all this stuff, the game doesn't realize that we're there yet, basically, in sort of a way. It's kind of hard to really explain. But essentially, we can just skip a whole bunch of backtracking. Anyways, one of the villagers followed us here, and she happens to also conveniently have the means to get to Thunder Tower. She's a good friend of sort of the maiden of the town, who is also the god's good friend. I'll ban you, Ball. Kalilica's the best girl. She's too pure. No, this is a different tower than the one in East Origin. This is Providence Tower. So normally we're not supposed to get here, but if you have the key, which Kalilica basically does, you can proceed, but we need to light these lightning rods. You can actually skip a couple of them, though. So you can actually listen for the thunder strikes. And in doing this, you actually skip lighting about 3 of the lightning rods if you do really well-timed movement. Oh shoot, I am super dumb. Okay, we're gonna have to do this over again, and I might be screwed here, because I messed with cycles considerably. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's Thunder Plains East Edition. Yep, dodge 200 lightning strikes.
God, considering what we have to do in order to dodge lightning strikes in this version, that would be really painful.
Alright, so we'll light this one as well. But yeah, so Kalilica wants us to go find her friend as well as the god Eldiel who lives in the tower because she's kind of worried about them. Alrighty. So listen for a lightning strike, and then if we run up to the lip of this like ledge here, it's close enough to the tower that the game stops striking us with lightning, which is really nice. Okay, and so that is the way we get up to this tower, skipping just a couple of lightning rods and getting struck by lightning once.
Just had to show off the 99k damage for a second time.
Yeah, so now we've just basically skipped all of the Highland scenario, which is nice because that takes about 7 minutes on this version and 10 on the Vita version. Because there's just a lot of going back and forth between Adol's grave to figure out, like, why is the Mask of the Sun missing? Oh, and by the way, there's this item called the Mask of the Sun. I'll touch on that later because it's sort of this game's Black Pearl in that it's the dark, powerful MacGuffin that they kind of give you as, like, oh, we need to not let this get in the hands of the bad guys. But then it doesn't really do much until, like, the end of the game.
Although, at least with the Mask of the Sun, they inform you of its effects and help you realize that they are at least somewhat dire, whereas with the Black Pearl, it's all kind of abstract.
I think it's kind of abstract because it actually gets demonstrated in East 2 when it makes the little blue-haired kid, Tarf, go kind of mad. Or
True.
No, was it Tarf or his friend? I forget. I think it was
It
his
might
friend.
have... Yeah. Lizard Man dude.
Yeah, Lizard Man dude, that's right. So, kind of assumes... Like, you have other games that will tell you that this thing is really bad, so...
Yeah.
Okay. So these enemies just kind of disappear, which means that I can hit this switch really easily. Earlier on, you saw that there were enemies that spawned, and I loaded up a memory, and that was actually to get the enemies to respawn in their default position rather than my own party members. And that allowed me to hit that switch without enemy aggro, because when enemies are aggroed onto me, I cannot actually do overworld actions. She's not as strong as she used to be in the speedrun. In fact, the speedrun actually makes Adol usable again. Adol,
Yep.
in the old routes of Celceta, Adol was not a great party member.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of surprising because you do even less in this run, and somehow he's just even better despite having worse stats.
Alright, so grabbing this item here called the Ceres Cape. That's just armor that has a little bit of a strength bonus. It helps out Car9 in the upcoming fight. So this is also doable in the Vita version, by the way, the skip that I'm about to do, but it's really janky and kind of hard to explain. So before we fight the boss, what we're going to do is we're going to warp out to the outside of town, or outside the tower, and there's a loading zone off to the west that we're not supposed to get to. But if you buffer in a bunch of saves, and you can hit the loading zone early. You're going to get struck by lightning, but you can keep loading your save.
Yeah, and loading the save resets the lightning timer.
It does... I'm not really sure. I think it's like on a global cycle with the game itself.
Mm. It at least pushes it back or something to where you
Allows
have
you to
enough time to keep rolling.
Oopsies. I accidentally pressed the character swap button. Okay. That's fine. Alright, so this is Table Mountain. I love its name, it's so goofy. But anyways, so we're not supposed to get to this part until we've cleared Providence Tower, but you can just save scum. Yeah, 200 lightning dodges. It is in this game after all. So we're gonna hit this shortcut because we're gonna warp back to the dungeon. And by doing all of this, the game... I hesitate to use the term state, gets confused, but it behaves weirdly. So normally, when you enter this boss fight, and if you die in this boss fight, it gives you the retry screen, but since we were just outside and got struck by lightning, if we die in this boss fight, the game will treat it the same way when we escape the B boss, and that means that we can... instead of dying, the game treats it as exiting a boss fight, which means the next screen that we go to that has a forced encounter. There we go. Next screen that we go to that has a forced encounter, which is actually in Highland Town, will initiate that up. It'll force that automatically. I'm gonna equip her with Gravity Sphere because this is her best skill. I'm gonna pull them all together and then use her finisher, which pulls them all in. And my allies are gonna hit them with a ton of status effects. And so now that Kalilika's basically done her job in this fight, I'm gonna have Karna do the rest because she can move around. So once again, using kiting strats. Unfortunately, she is pretty low level and takes a lot of damage, so we do need to be careful here. Okay, so I'm gonna have to take my time here because I took a lot of damage.
One thing of note that probably hasn't come up yet. If one of your ally characters would die while you're not controlling them, they instead get left with 1 HP and just start following you around, not attacking. It means that the AI can't die, and if you're ever in a situation where there's a character you really don't want to die, you can just switch out.
Alright, we'll pull them in again. Oh, well, Karna died, but the other characters were around to kill him, so that doesn't matter much. I just want them alive so they can do damage, not because of any other reason. Alrighty, so that mob is cleared. That fight's not supposed to happen until after we clear Providence Tower. And all this stuff happens afterwards. But the reason we do this first is because this gets us Kalilica as a permanent party member, and it also gets us the Golden Wing, which is a really, really helpful item. So I'm going to buy just a couple of... I'm going to buy a Bitter Potion and then a Honey Potion, just so I can have these for later. And then now that I got the Golden Wing, I can warp wherever, whenever. Yes, this game has 6 playable characters. So we're going back to this guy, and thankfully, he is much easier than that last encounter. The first phase of this fight, which we're only going to do the first phase, we need to take out these 4 little orbs on the sides here. Each one you take out clears a quarter of his health. Now, ideally, the strat is to get behind them and just pummel them with Kalilica, who has the most damage right now. But this is not always reliable, because you can see they can kind of repel me, and only sometimes can I get right behind them. Okay, there we go. Yes. So there are 6 playable character types, and there's 3 damage types. The damage types don't really matter in the route, so I don't talk about them much. This, on the other hand, is the greatest part of this run, and why I love this game as a speedrun. Dang, I'm this far behind. Okay. It's unfortunate. We'll make up that time, though, and should still come just barely underestimate. So these are the Gale Shoes, or as I call them, Sonic Speed Shoes. Grab that for safety later.
Insert whatever your favorite meme about gotta go fast here. Because they all apply.
Because that's what my split name for grabbing the Gale Shoes is. So the Gale Shoes, they're an accessory which lets you run really, really damn fast. Running in the 90s. Yes, yes it is.
Oh.
East 4 OG had a good story. This game's story's okay. It gets the job done. It has its moments that I like. What I really like is this accessory, because you run stupid fast. It's like, I don't know why the developers even thought to put this in here, but I'm all the more appreciative that they did.
Yeah.
Alright, so in case you haven't realized, we are not going to finish Providence Tower. It's the best part of Celceta. I will not, like, I can't even, like, argue. If you ask me what is the first thing I think of when I think of this game, it's this damn accessory. It's so goofy, because you run so dang fast. It's only meant to, like, get you up the tower, but it also becomes by far the funniest, most fun and fastest and funniest form of movement in this game. But yeah, so Karna, my character that I'm playing as right now, is the fastest sprinter. She also sometimes does a ninja run. Alrighty, so this is the town of Danon. And this is our last party member. Her name is Frida, and she's one of my favorites because she wields a sword. She wields an axe on a stick. aka a halberd, if anyone's familiar with polearm type weapons. Anyways, so the Mask of the Sun was actually taken, found by somebody in this village and taken here to be protected, because the Mask of the Sun is really, really powerful. So powerful that when we try and take it, the girl from Highland Town that we haven't actually seen because we skipped a whole bunch, comes and attacks us. She also, inconveniently, happens to have a Galbalin as an ally. So I'm gonna set Hurricane Spin to X and Demonic Edge to Circle, because my newest party member also happens to be the one who does the most damage. Alright, she also has a really good finisher, which hits twice. Okay. This fight can be really annoying. And I got knocked down, but I at least got the Cactus Drive. Frida has some really useful skills. Hurricane Spin, which is her basic attacks, which is a spin, a small buff for strength, and a really good long-range icicle attack. So Lisa, the girl from Highland Town, who's the sort of maiden of the god himself, decides that she's going to run away with the mask. So she breaks the seal on it, and the big bad of the game was just kind of waiting there for her to do that. And he just swoops in and steals it. Yep, spin to win. You saw me set to come here earlier. This is actually where I need to proceed. I just came here and set a warp point for later. Also, this is one of only 2 times we ever use Frida's overworld action, which is she can seal fissures in the ground.
Somehow only slightly less specific than Ozma's.
Yeah, some of these characters have very specific overworld abilities, which I think is basically their way. Like, they tried to be a little creative with this game, and at times it works, at times it doesn't. But I ultimately think, mechanically, this game was my favorite in the series. Although I haven't played 8 yet, so I'm holding judgment on that. A lot of people have told me that 8 is just kind of the next step from this game, which was already like a step ahead of E7. So if you're wondering why I'm switching characters like this, it's because if you switch party members up really fast while they're sprinting, they hit top speed a little bit quicker. It's more of a minor optimization, but it does save a little bit of time, and every little bit of time save counts. It's also easy to mess up, though. The PC port of Ys 8 has gotten better.
Yeah, they fixed basically everything that was wrong with it, and for a speedrun, technically it's the fastest version, but several of the tricks are unstable on the PC version as opposed to PS4.
So this area is a swampland, so running in any of this blue muck slows me down, which is why you'll see me take some kind of strange roundabout paths with movement here. It's to maximize the amount of time that I'm standing on solid dry ground. It's the fastest edition. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best edition of the game. PS4 is probably still the best, but the PC... Oh, wow. I apparently just hit my left trigger. That's not good. Well, it's going to make this next fight considerably longer. Oh well. Yeah, you know, screw that particular place. I wanted a tornado there.
Running so fast no one will see me EX this spot in particular.
Yep. Alrighty, so these frogs are stupid. If you're sprinting, they will knock you out of your sprint with their massive tongue. So be prepared for some mouse on the screen again. because this puzzle is actually a touchscreen puzzle on the PC version, or on the Vita version, and thus you can do it with the mouse on the PC version. It's basically a weight puzzle. You just have to put the right things on there. I just happen to know what those are. And goodbye, cursor. Alrighty. So, this boss, I forget his name, I just call him OS Frog, so get out your OS Frog emotes, everybody. Now, so the trick with this guy is, for some silly reason, Hurricane Spin actually stun locks it pretty well, if you sequence it together correctly. And Adol learned a new skill, which is really nice because it refreshes my SP meter to full. So, spin to win.
And it's almost like I'm watching Dark Souls 1 PvP all over again.
This is so dumb. I love this strat, by the way.
It's so good.
And now he's actually stunned. Okay, that could have gone way worse, because sometimes he can eat Frida, and then that makes his fight infinitely slower. Alrighty. You can put away your frogs now. I'll save this for another day. Alrighty, so why I came for this boss is the Beast King's Claws, which is an accessory that I need to beat the game. And there's a warp over here to a place called Forest of Spores, which is actually where I need to proceed. So I actually grabbed that warp a little quicker, and I lost all my speed. Whoopsies. I grabbed that warp point a little earlier when it's more convenient to do so. And these guys, I call them the sausage monsters. Sometimes something a little meaner. But they like to shout at me. And if they shout at me, what that does is it stops me in my sprint and stuns me for a couple seconds, which is no bueno. So sometimes I'll break out of my sprint to just dodge roll past them. Alrighty, so we're immediately on to another boss fight. This one's a little bit nicer, but it's also the reason I picked up a revival item, because this guy is a pain in the butt. Also, my AI allies are useless in this fight because they tend to auto-target these like orbs on the side, which she'll sometimes run to heal, but they're never really anything to worry about. So in his second phase, he's going to start transforming and then gaining feet. Okay.
That was a really good first phase.
Alright, so now that I have a strength buff and a flash guard, this should finish him. Or not. Oops. Okay, he's gonna stampede, but he's low enough health that one flash dodge should allow me to finish him. There we go. So he brought Frida down to low HP, which isn't so good, but the most important thing in this fight is Adol cannot die. If Adol dies in that fight, I am boned.
Yeah, Adol absolutely needs to live this next part of the game. Because otherwise, the game's basically not completable.
It's so dang hard to try and actually complete without doing that. Alrighty, so this is the section just before the end game. We can actually head off to the entrance of a later dungeon, but we're not supposed to be able to enter that dungeon until after we complete 2 more dungeons to get the incomplete Mask of the Moon, which is the counterpart to the Mask of the Sun that the final boss stole. Oops, that was a little early. So here I'm going to grab 2 accessories just because they're really useful. And now there's 2 more dungeons that the game wants me to complete, and there's a lot of cutscenes at the capital city of El Duque, which is positioned right next to the entrance of the final dungeon. We're not supposed to be able to get in there for a while until we complete the Ancient Colonial Laboratory. After completing those next 2 dungeons, we get the accessory that allows us to kill the enemy guarding this door. But we're not going to complete that because this guy actually conveniently has an attack that we can use to do height storage, that same trick we did much earlier in the run on the B boss. Okay. What?
Karna's just tired. She just wanted to sit down and take a nap.
So several dodges, and I get enough height that I can actually shoot over this door and enter this dungeon early. So this is the second to last dungeon of the game. It's going to be the last one that we're going to do in the speedrun, though, because the final dungeon is... you'll see.
Does entering the dungeon this way skip the...
Skips everything before this point, and the worst part of this dungeon.
Oh, beautiful.
So, after completing the previous 2 dungeons and getting the Mask of the Moon, we need to actually find a way to repair it. So we think to come to this laboratory. As soon as we come to this laboratory, we find Lisa and her friend Saul Galba, the boss that we fought earlier. Saul Galba's kind of going nuts and leaves her, basically. So we need to escort her to Saul Galba. Escort. The worst part of the escort is that she cannot sprint, which means that we have to dodge roll our way through this dungeon, and it's very slow. But because we don't have her, because we never initiated the cutscene that starts the escort mission, we can just sprint through this dungeon. But don't worry, we'll see her a little bit more later, because, yeah, we just completely sequence break the tar out of this game. That being said, because we skipped so much, we currently do not have, like, endgame gear. So the makeshift solution, the band-aid solution to this, is to grab the sword in that treasure chest, which is a really solid weapon for Adol.
It's why in this route, Adol actually becomes a viable damaging character, unlike every other route that this game has gone through, except for Nightmare. And that's only because Nightmare, you need everyone to deal damage.
So you can actually skip to this part and save about 3 seconds, but by using Dwarf Bracelet and then unusing it right under the loading zone, but it's like a frame-perfect trick. Alrighty, so we got one more door skip to do, because there's one more enemy that... The door enemies we can't kill until we get a later item, but we can just skip right over them. So I'm going to save here, just because this guy can two-shot me, and we hit the loading zone immediately. So, on to the boss of this area.
That was a good one.
Definitely get this for PC. It's a lot smoother looking and fun. Okay, so we're gonna hit this here, and then I'm going to equip Adol with the stuff that I've picked up. So the Power Ring, the Sage's Diadem, and now the boss of this dungeon will not load properly because we didn't enter this dungeon properly. So we're gonna force him. So we're gonna have to go meet a familiar face because we left this boss alive about 45 minutes ago.
Oh, hey, it's a bee. A real danger in this version of the fight is accidentally having your allies kill the boss. Get...
what? I know I got the dodges for that. I missed it by 1. Okay. So, all we have to do is actually escape from that fight. So, now that we can go back to the Colonial Effect library, or laboratory, just want to make sure that, yeah, okay, everything is good. I'm just double checking. So, we're going to force the boss of this dungeon out by doing that. Ravi really likes this game. That's all I'll say. He found most of these glitches. So this guy can basically one-hit kill me with some of his attacks. The strat for this fight is to kill his feet and then his hands. And then now his head is going to come down, and I've learned Blade Barrage, which is a really good skill. If you enter this room without fighting the boss, then nothing happens, and you just have to... You have to find a way to force this fight. And if you don't have the B boss alive, you will soft lock the game. Or at least another fight that you can escape from. There's no difference in content. Actually, there's a couple of bonus modes that they kind of put in the PC version, which I will actually demonstrate one of them in the next run that I will be doing. Because New Game Plus is a thing, and on PC, New Game Plus is hilarious.
Yeah, New Game Plus definitely exists. Just, the question is for how long?
Alright. Oh, I'll show you, Hoppy.
When I say for how long, I'm mainly just alluding to the brevity of the run.
Oh, that's right. Alright, so now I need to kill the hands one more time. This was actually a super good Sol Galba too. I'm probably going to run very slightly over estimate, but this run went absolutely terrible in so many places that it shouldn't... The fact that everything went well late game kind of redeems it a little bit. And 3-cycle. You have just enough damage to barely 3-cycle him if you are at level 33 entering this fight, which you should be if Adol never dies. Oh, hey, Felly. How's it going, Felly? So, inside her giant beast was actually the sealed soul of the king who lived in this region many years ago, and he's able to repair the Mask of the Moon, which allows us to enter the final dungeon. But thanks to a quirk in the final dungeon, we're gonna have to do this one more time. Ah, Tiny Tim, the run's almost over. That's alright. Thanks so much for stopping by. Tiny Tim's a good friend and a regular of my stream, so... I'll see you later.
So yeah, for those who are wondering, this is why we don't kill the bee. You just literally can't progress the game up. Like, sure, it would have been faster early on, but then you would have had to do everything else normally and by the books.
So there's the cutscene that triggers when you first enter this place, and the cutscene that triggers after you complete the lab. And that overwrites all previous things, and we can now enter the final dungeon. But since we escaped from a boss fight, we initiate a lousy enemy mob encounter that's supposed to trigger as soon as we have cleared the final dungeon. Oh hey, Aura Fencer. This is a really good skill.
Oh wow.
So, this encounter is treated like a boss fight. So we left a boss fight, trigger that encounter, and initiate Endgame without ever doing anything in the final dungeon.
We skip out on the best music in the game.
There's so many good songs. Like, I'm just glad that, you know, Colonial Laboratory is in the game.
Yeah.
So, we defeat Garuda, the main villain of the game, but his Phantom, which the Mask of the Sun has kind of created, is trying to kill us and take back the Mask of the Sun, which we got from the final boss. So we decide the Mask of the Sun is too powerful, so we're going to Lord of the Rings it and just chuck it in a volcano.
So which one of them's Sam?
Durin, I don't know. No, Durin would be the most useless one of the bunch. Alright, so here's the final boss. Also, Lisa's here. They put the escort in the final boss instead. So she just kind of is here to get beat up on by the final boss, but she is programmed to never be able to die. So she just kind of is there to take hits.
I think she... Doesn't she also heal you?
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
It's fine. This fight's really easy.
God. It is so cathartic just...
So, Lisa is the most annoying escort in the game. So he's about to do his super skill, so I'm going to initiate mine and use it to get right behind him. And I flash guarded it. But unfortunately Lisa gets hit and initiates it anyways. So I get hit from it. Thanks, Lisa. Still finding a way to be a burden in the run. She's kind of not very smart in the story of this game. And exists to get beat up on.
I just love how the boss's AI actually goes.
Okay, this is not a great Phantom Garuda. But I don't have to worry about dying. And there he is. So, we have just defeated the final boss. So now we're going to cast the Mask of the Sun into the volcano. Almost die, Lisa's going to save us, and then the god, Eldiel, is going to grant us the title of Adventurer, and that is time. So, 46 seconds overestimate. Late game went really well. Some pretty poor early game, but I'll take it. Okay.